Could somebody please make it make sense?
Hey everybody, welcome to A Pop of Culture. I'm your host, the Esoteric and Facetious, and this is A Pop of Culture, which is my video essay podcast where I speak on pop culture, social justice, and the human experience from a black, bisexual millennial perspective. Everything, and I mean everything I say, should be taken with a grain of salt, as I'm simply a recent college grad with access to a recording device and the internet. With that being said, my youth shouldn't be your sole reason to critique my views unless it's truly relevant. If you disagree with anything I say, let's have a civil conversation in the comment section below. Before we get into the topic of this video, which is, was Oprah wrong? I want to advertise my cover channel, A Pop of Culture Sings, where I sing throwback R&B, contemporary R&B, pop music, whatever I'm feeling, whatever you're feeling. So if you want to be down like Brandy, if you're down with the click R.I.P. Aaliyah, then definitely feel free to check that channel out. Today's video is going to be our second installment of Were They Right, Were They Wrong? Were They Right, Were They Wrong is a series on my channel where I talk about was a group of people right or wrong in a certain incident. The first episode of Were They Right, Were They Wrong is about a single mother. The single mother and her family shower her son with gifts, and he has the nerve to say, oh, I didn't get this one toy. And she makes him give away all of his toys. And in that video, I asked the question, was she wrong for making her son give away all the toys? In this episode, I'm going to be covering whether Oprah Winfrey was right or wrong in an old clip of her show. Let's get into it. In this clip, a young woman says that she doesn't want to vote, and Oprah tries to guilt trip her into voting by sharing about a traumatic experience that someone else experienced.
I'll start with Norma and Mia. I'm trying to remain totally unbiased.
That's what she says.
Show, but I will start with you all because, as black people in this country, I just find it difficult to believe that you're not going to vote for somebody since so many of our people died for the right to vote.
I don't like that she says this because this is guilt tripping in my eyes. Yes, black people died for the right to vote, but I don't think that you should use that against black people to force them to vote. That's called guilt tripping. I feel like Oprah should have had a conversation with these people to ask them, why don't they feel their votes matter? Why don't they feel their votes count? But for her to just go out swinging with, oh, black people died for the right to vote. Two things can be true at one time. One, black people died for the right to vote, and two, black people don't feel their vote counts. She should ask them why they feel their vote doesn't count, because throwing the fact that black people died for the right to vote in their face isn't necessarily a good way to argue your point. I feel like throwing the fact that black people died in their face is problematic. I see this a lot with black elders and black parents. There's this idea that because black people were enslaved, black people struggled, black people had a hard time, that we as young black people have to spend every second of every single day fighting and fighting and fighting for an opportunity, fighting for a career, doing this and doing that, because they didn't have the opportunity. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I do think that I should take advantage of the rights, the liberties that I have as a free black person in America in 2022 because my ancestors didn't have that opportunity. But at the same time, I shouldn't have to sit here and every second of every day grind. I deserve to rest. I deserve to have fun. I deserve to have a full life that's not just work. Just because they struggled doesn't mean that my whole identity has to be acting out what they couldn't act out. And that's the struggle I feel with Oprah in this voting comment. Just because they died doesn't mean that those people are not allowed to feel the way that they feel. And honestly, that's something I also wanted to get into with this whole thing. Anti-blackness is what stopped those people from being able to vote. And anti-blackness also is what is making a lot of black people feel their vote doesn't count. So I feel like that's what Oprah's not really getting at here. She's trying to make it like, oh, these black people don't care. They're just so ignorant and they just don't want to vote. And the reality is there's reasons why black people don't feel their vote counts. And a lot of that I feel is intentional. So let's go even further into the clip. And I also hate when there's talk shows like this and when the person makes a point like this and they get an applause, because it's like you're guilt tripping these people. You're trying to make them feel bad that somebody died fighting for the right to vote. When the reality is it's not their fault. They didn't orchestrate the death of these black people when these black people were not able to vote and when they were fighting for the right to vote. So I don't like that applause because it's like she was guilt tripping them, and I don't like that was being praised. You can see, and honestly, I keep pausing, but you can see the black woman's discomfort because she's just trying to get her thoughts together. I'm sure if someone asked her why she didn't want to vote in a less stressful environment, she would be able to give them a clear answer. But looking right here, it looks like she's just kind of trying to get her words together because she knows that Oprah is going to shame her. Because Oprah is already shaming her. Oprah is already trying to guilt trip her with the dead black people. So let's keep going. I keep interrupting, but another thing I want y'all to see is Oprah clearly has the upper hand. One, it's her show, but you can see from the fact that people are already applauding Oprah that these people, if they want to prove their argument, they're going to have to work extra hard. One, Oprah has primed her audience to feel that she's right. Two, it's her show, so of course they're going to feel she's right. Oprah has the upper hand. So these people are going to have to work extra hard if they want their argument to be heard. But the reality is, because Oprah said something against them, they've already lost the argument. But let's keep playing the clip.
To address that issue for me first.
Well, I guess basically I feel
this is another issue I have. Oprah's not asking the young woman, why don't you want to vote? She's asking her, why don't you want to vote? Because black people died, if that makes sense. Oprah is asking her to give her a reason why she doesn't want to vote when black people died for her to have the right to vote. And that's not the same question as why don't you want to vote? Why don't you want to vote is a less charged question. But why don't you want to vote when people died for you is a very charged question. Because if you answer wrong, it makes it look like you're disrespecting the ancestors, which this woman hasn't done. She hasn't even opened her mouth yet. And I just hate that. Oprah, just asked her why she doesn't want to vote. Don't ask her why doesn't she want to vote because black people died. Because you're adding that guilt and you're adding that blame onto her when it's not her fault that black people had to fight for the right to vote.
So you have to address that issue for me first.
And see, she even says you have to address that issue for me first. No, she doesn't have to address that issue because it's not her fault that black people fought for the right to vote and that black people died for the right to vote. That doesn't really have anything to do with whether she chooses or chooses not to vote. They fought for her to have the right to vote, the ability to vote. They didn't fight for her to be forced to vote. And I just hate that Oprah's forcing her to answer this contrived question. I'm realizing it now. Oprah's implying that these black people don't care about the sacrifice that other black people went through for them to vote. And that's not the case. Someone can care about the sacrifice that black people went through for them to have the right to vote and still not want to vote. It's not this either or of either you vote every time because you care about the ancestors or either you don't vote at all because you don't care about the ancestors. And for Oprah to say, oh, well, you gotta address this part first, it's showing she's building this contrived argument of either you care or you don't. And if you don't, you're bad because that means you don't care about dead black people.
Well, I guess basically I feel that who am I being true to first, myself or my country? I don't want to be a hypocrite and go in there and not vote for, somebody that might do the job right. I don't know. I just feel that.
Let me tell you this story.
Okay.
And now she's going to be even more manipulative. This is another thing. I always wonder how they pick these people that they want to put on the shows. Because it's like, this woman, maybe it's because she's talking to freaking Oprah, but she's not really giving me articulate vibes. And I'm not saying that she can't be articulate, but I'm saying she doesn't seem like she's able to coherently give her idea. And that's something I hate, is when you want to have people represent a certain idea or movement on your show, you need to pick somebody who can speak competently to the issue. And that means if you want to talk to people who are passionate about not voting, you need to put somebody on the screen who knows why they don't want to vote and who's articulate. You may want to talk to somebody who has some credentials behind their name or degrees behind their name. And I'm not saying that they have to have degrees, because that could also be problematic. I'm not saying that a person has to have degrees behind their name to speak competently about an issue. And I'm not saying this person doesn't have degrees. What I'm saying is, I feel Oprah didn't choose the best person who was going to give her a worthy response and clock her. I feel she just wanted somebody who was going to sound dumb and sound like they didn't know what they were talking about so she could easily bash them. And here's another thing I didn't like about this clip. Oprah is about to do this thing where she's going to say a traumatic story to try to push her point about dead black people. And here's my issue. Yet again, it's this either or of either you vote and either you respect the sacrifice black people made, or either you don't care at all and you don't care about dead black people. And I don't like that because I feel like that's not a fair argument to make. And she also interrupts the girl again. And it's her show, but it's also just like, you're not even really having a conversation with this woman. You're just pushing your own point. And I definitely want to get into that later on, like that tendency of black elders to police what younger black people feel and think. I remember one time in Bible study, it was a lock-in event, and I remember they were having a conversation with us young black people about the N-word, and they didn't want to have an actual conversation about should black people say the N-word. It was basically just them trying to hammer into us, don't say the N-word, don't say the N-word. And it's like, why are you going to try to present this as a conversation if you're just going to hammer in your point? And that's the same thing I feel with this Oprah situation. Why are you trying to present this as a conversation when your whole goal is trying to make this woman look stupid and to make her position look stupid? But let's play further. And sorry, I'm like trying to look in the camera rather than looking down here because I feel like that makes more sense. But it's weird because the video is not there yet. It's in editing. But yeah.
Reverend Otis Moss in Cleveland, who told this story in a sermon that he gave. He was born in a little town, I think in Georgia. I can't remember the name of the town. I'll try to make the story brief. He says he remembers the day his father, as a black man, was first given the right to vote. His father walked 6 miles to the voting poll. He got there, and the people told him there, "You're in the wrong place, boy." He walked another 8 miles to the voting poll, and they said, "You're in the wrong place. You should be 7 miles up." He walked another 7 miles up and got there, and it was too late to vote. After his father walked all those miles back home, the children were waiting to see, "Daddy, what did it feel like as a black man to vote for the first time?" And he had to tell them, his father had to tell them that he didn't have a chance to vote because he went to the wrong place and was denied the right to vote. And Reverend Otis Moss says that now, because when 4 years later came around, his father had died and was not able to vote as a black man, that now every time he goes into the poll and pulls a lever, he pulls that lever for his father, a black man who was denied the right to vote and died before he could. Just remember that story on election day, okay?
So this is another instance that I don't like. So let's get into this clip. So here's what I don't like. Oprah interrupted the young black woman after giving her an alternative question. First off, I feel Oprah didn't even give the young woman a chance to say what she needed to say. Of course, the young woman didn't seem to articulate herself very well, but Oprah interrupted her before she was able to finish. I feel a lot of times when you're in these high-pressure environments, like on a national TV show, you're going to be a little bit nervous, but a lot of times, if people allow you to keep on talking, eventually you're going to arrive at your point. Oprah stops her before she's able to get to her point in a coherent way to throw us this sad story that is meant to guilt trip us into feeling the need to vote. The story is very sad. This black man, he wants to vote. He walks some more, and each time he's denied the right to vote. There's no resolution to the story because he dies before he's able to vote again. So the message of the story is we as black people all need to feel indebted to black people of the past who died for the right to vote and vote every single time, no matter what, because they didn't get the chance to vote. That's the message. Because they died, because they struggled, because they didn't get the right to vote, we have to vote no matter what. And that makes me uncomfortable. I do believe that black people should vote, but I don't think this is the right way to get people to vote. I feel like it's very manipulative and coercive to try to push other people's deaths that other people didn't have anything to do with as a way to pressure us to vote. It's not that young black lady's fault that these people were not able to vote. She did not cause that. So while she can vote to show her thanks to these people for the fact that they made a sacrifice, I don't think that she should be made to feel guilty for the fact that they weren't able to vote because it's not her fault. It's white supremacy's fault that they were not able to vote. It's racism's fault that they were not able to vote. In my opinion, Oprah is wrong because she doesn't even give the young black woman a chance to represent her argument in a coherent and meaningful way. Oprah goes into this interaction feeling all black people need to vote because other black people died for the right to vote. And not once throughout the entire interaction does she ever consider that there may be a valid reason why a black person doesn't want to vote. She lets the young woman stammer on for a minute or so, but then she arrives at the same point that she was going to give regardless of what the young woman said. And something about that just feels dirty to me. Why would you invite people on to represent a certain position if you're not going to hear that position out? And I'm somebody who believes black people should vote. But the reason I hate this video is because I don't think you should guilt trip black people for stuff that they didn't cause. I feel it's problematic to guilt trip black people for the struggling that other people went through. While I think we should never forget the sacrifice that other black people made for the right to vote, I don't think you should hold that over young people's head or over people who don't want to vote's head, because that same energy that was put towards not allowing black people to vote is the same energy that's put on black people to make them feel their vote doesn't matter. I feel Oprah should have talked about how black votes matter, how they have decided elections. I feel if Oprah wanted to make a more powerful argument, she would talk about why black people's votes matter in the present. And some ways she could have shown that is saying, if these black people didn't vote, this election would have went this way, or this would have happened. But putting that guilt on black people for stuff that they had nothing to do with, I feel, was an issue. How do y'all feel? Do y'all think this was problematic? Do y'all think this was okay? How do y'all feel about Oprah using this traumatic story and the death of black people to pressure other black people to vote? And that's another thing too. I'm one of those people where I feel if your point is right, if your argument is true, then it's true no matter what. You should be able to defend it. But I feel Oprah knew that there may be some good reasons why these black people didn't want to vote, or debatable reasons why they didn't want to vote. So that's why she went so hard on this dead black people, dead black people, dead black people narrative. Because as long as she could use that as a guilt tripping tactic, there was nothing that they could say because no one wants to make it look like you don't appreciate what the ancestors did. And when I say ancestors, I just mean people before us. So that's my feelings on that. I respect Oprah. I think that she has done a lot of good, but this clip just never sat right with me, because it was just like, why are you being so manipulative? Why are you trying so hard to control the conversation? If what you're saying is right, then it'll be right after somebody coherently counters what you're saying. But that's something I've noticed with a lot of these talk show hosts. People like Oprah and Dr. Phil, they like to control the narrative, and they will have somebody on there and they'll let them speak, but they won't really let them speak. Like if they start talking too much sense, then they'll probably try to silence them in some way. Even with Oprah, the way she interrupts the young woman before she's able to coherently deliver her point so she can give that whammy story that's so sad, that was her trying to control the narrative. So how do y'all feel? This clip just bothers me so much. Black elders need to stop trying to guilt trip young Black people into doing what they want. It's not cool. I just wanted to state very clearly, I respect Oprah. She is iconic. She is one of the most successful Black women in entertainment. She is Black royalty. So I don't want y'all to get it twisted and make it like I'm disrespecting Oprah, that I don't value Oprah and her contributions, because I do. But I just want to say this particular incident did not sit right with me. That is all for now. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you think she was right. Let me know if you think she was wrong. Love y'all. Bye-bye. I will see y'all in the next one. Thanks for watching. Like this video if you like this video. Let me know if you agree or disagree with the points I made in the comments below. If you enjoyed this content, definitely like, comment, subscribe, and share. That way, even if YouTube isn't pushing my content, those who resonate with it are sharing it so it can connect with others who would enjoy it. Those are some easy, free ways to support a pop of culture. If you want to support this show financially, feel free to send a tip to my Cash App or buy me a cup of coffee, both linked below. All who donate will be featured in the credits of my long-form commentary and cover videos. There are 2 playlists that are going to pop up, one where you can binge watch my covers and one where you can binge watch my commentary. Enjoy. Bye-bye.